My name is Emma Thompson, and this is the story of how an abandoned farm turned me from the family disappointment into someone my greedy relatives couldn't ignore. Sometimes, the greatest treasures are hidden in places others consider worthless. I remember the day of the will reading like it was yesterday. The mahogany-paneled law office felt suffocating as our family lawyer, Mr. Harrison, adjusted his glasses and began reading my parents' final wishes. The tragic car accident that took them had left behind a $50 million fortune to be divided between my sister, Sarah, and me, or so I thought. To our beloved daughter, Sarah, Mr. Harrison read, we leave our investment portfolio, the family mansion, and all liquid assets. Sarah's perfectly lipsticked mouth curved into a triumphant smile. To Emma, he continued, his voice softening, we leave Grandpa Thompson's old farm property in Montana. Silence. Then Sarah's laughter shattered it. A farm? She sneered, her diamond bracelet jingling as she flicked her wrist. Oh, this is priceless. Little Emma always did prefer playing in the dirt over attending charity galas. I sat frozen. The 200-acre farm had been abandoned for decades. Ever since Grandpa passed away, Dad always called it worthless, refusing to set foot on the land. And now, it was all I had. There must be some mistake, Aunt Patricia interjected, her face pinched with concern. Richard and Margaret would never leave their daughter with just dirt. Mr. Harrison shook his head. The will is quite clear. The farm, including all structures and contents, belongs to Emma. Sarah stood, smoothing her Chanel dress. Well, sis, enjoy your barns and chickens. I have a portfolio to manage. She paused at the door, her smile razor sharp. But if you need a loan, I'm sure we can work something out. After all, what's family for? I left the office with nothing but a manila envelope, the farm's deed and keys rattling inside. The next day, I arrived at the property. Decades of dust coated everything. The main house, a weary two-story structure, slumped under the weight of time, but it was the massive old barn that caught my attention. Grandpa Thompson had been an odd man, brilliant but eccentric. He made his fortune in mining engineering before retiring to this farm, where he spent his last years tinkering in that barn. Dad always said he'd lost his mind, wasting his genius on a worthless piece of land. I wasn't so sure. The barn door groaned as I pushed it open. Sunlight streamed through gaps in the wooden walls, illuminating rusting equipment and cobwebbed shelves, but something felt off. The space wasn't quite right. The exterior dimensions didn't match the inside. I remembered following Grandpa here as a child, watching him disappear for hours behind a hidden door. Our little secret, he'd whisper, winking. After his death, Dad searched briefly but found nothing, declared it another of Grandpa's delusions. But I remembered. 3 taps on the north wall, pushed the 4th board from the bottom. My hands trembled as I followed the long-forgotten pattern. Click. A section of wall swung inward, revealing a staircase spiraling into darkness. Heart pounding, I flicked on my phone's flashlight and descended. At the bottom, I found myself in a massive underground chamber. The walls were covered in geological surveys, mining charts, and chemical analyses. In the center sat a sophisticated testing lab, preserved beneath dust covers. But it was the safe in the corner that changed everything. The combination was my birthday, Grandpa never forgot. Inside, I found a leather-bound journal and a USB drive. The journal's first page read, "To Emma, the only one who ever bothered to listen." Tears filled my eyes as I flipped through the pages. Grandpa hadn't lost his mind. He had made a discovery that would change everything. The worthless farm sat atop one of the largest rare earth element deposits in North America. Grandpa had developed a revolutionary extraction process, one that was not only efficient but environmentally friendly. The USB drive held detailed patents, already filed, but never activated. Grandpa had been waiting for the right moment and the right person to bring his discovery to life. My hands trembled as I realized what this meant. The farm wasn't worthless, it was worth billions. But I knew that if my family found out, they'd try to take it from me. Sarah would hire the best lawyers, claim I wasn't competent to manage something this big. I needed to act fast, protect myself, before they figured out what Grandpa had left me. That night, I stayed in the old house, poring over every page of Grandpa's journal. By morning, I had a plan. I made 3 calls, to a patent lawyer, a mining engineer, and an investment banker I'd befriended during my quiet years working in finance, a career my family had always looked down on. Keep this absolutely confidential, I told each of them. I'm about to show you something that will change everything. Over the next 6 months, I worked in secret while Sarah posted photos of her luxury vacations and charity galas. I built a team of the industry's best minds. The barn, once filled with dust and decay, became our command center, transformed with cutting-edge equipment. "These patents are revolutionary," Dr. Chin, our lead engineer, said one late night. "Your grandfather's extraction process could make rare earth mining not only profitable but environmentally sustainable. Do you realize what this could mean?" I did. With the increasing demand for rare earth elements in everything from smartphones to electric vehicles, we were sitting on a gold mine, literally and figuratively. We quietly incorporated Thompson's sustainable resources, using a web of shell companies to shield our movements. I funded the operation with my savings, accumulated over years of careful investing. Every step was deliberate, calculated to keep my family out of the loop. Then came Sarah's wedding, a lavish spectacle at the family mansion. I almost didn't attend, but I knew my absence would raise questions. "Oh, Emma," Sarah said, her voice sweet but laced with mockery when I arrived. "How's farming going?" Her new husband, a hedge fund manager, snickered from beside her. "It's quite educational," I replied coolly. "Actually, I've been meaning to ask, how's the tech sector of your portfolio performing?" Sarah's smile faltered, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "Why?" "Just curious," I said, sipping my champagne. "I heard rare earth element shortages are causing some trouble for manufacturers. Must be affecting stock prices." "I haven't checked recently," she admitted, her discomfort growing. "You should," I suggested, hiding my grin behind my glass. The next morning, while Sarah jetted off to her honeymoon in the Maldives, we broke ground on our first extraction facility. By the time she returned 3 weeks later, Thompson Sustainable Resources had already secured contracts with 3 major tech manufacturers. The story hit the Wall Street Journal. "Revolutionary mining company disrupts rare earth market." My phone rang nonstop as our company's value soared past $1 billion on its first public trading day. "Emma," Sarah's voice was shrill when she finally reached me, "why didn't you tell us? We're family." "Are we?" I asked softly. I thought I was just the girl who got dirt for her inheritance. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Sarah and Aunt Patricia tried to claim that Grandpa's patents should have been part of the family estate. Their lawyers argued that I had concealed valuable assets. But Grandpa had planned everything perfectly. His will had explicitly stated that all contents of the farm, intellectual property included, belonged to me. The hidden lab's existence proved he had developed everything on the farm property. The final showdown came at an emergency family meeting called by Aunt Patricia. The scene was set around the long dining table in the mansion, the same table where they had once mocked my modest career choices. "You have to understand," Sarah pleaded, her designer bracelets clinking nervously. "Dad would have wanted the family to share in this," Sarah finished, her voice trembling with forced sincerity. I met her gaze, then slowly pulled Grandpa's journal from my bag. Flipping to a marked page, I read aloud. "Dear Emma, I'm leaving you this farm because you were the only one who saw its value beyond dollar signs. Your father and sister chase wealth, but you chase knowledge. That's why you'll succeed where they failed." The room fell silent. I closed the journal and looked straight at Sarah. "You know what the difference is between us? When you inherited the family fortune, I congratulated you. When I built something of my own, you tried to take it." Her lips parted, reaching for damage control. "We can work something out." "Actually, we can't," I interrupted smoothly, "but I will give you some free advice. Invest in sustainable technology. Thompson Sustainable Resources is about to announce a major expansion." I turned to leave, but Aunt Patricia's voice sliced through the air. "Your parents would be ashamed of how selfish you're being." I glanced back one last time. "No," I said, voice steady, "they'd be ashamed they never saw what Grandpa saw in me, but that's their loss, just like this company is your loss." Today, Thompson Sustainable Resources is valued at $12 billion. We're revolutionizing the mining industry, proving that sustainability and profitability can go hand in hand. The once forgotten farm is now a state-of-the-art research facility, though I left the barn exactly as Grandpa had, secret room and all. Sarah still reaches out occasionally, usually when she needs something. Last month, she called about investing in our latest venture. I had my assistant direct her to our public investor relations line. The family mansion, recently put up for sale. Sarah's reckless spending and bad investments had finally caught up with her. I bought it. Through a shell company, of course. It's now a science education center for underprivileged kids, because real wealth isn't about hoarding riches, it's about creating opportunity. Yesterday, I received an invitation to speak at my old high school's graduation ceremony. The topic? Finding value in unexpected places. I accepted immediately. After all, sometimes the greatest fortune isn't what you're given, it's what you discover when everyone else has stopped looking. As for the old farm, it's still home. I've modernized Grandpa's house, but every morning, I walk to the barn and tap that secret panel, remembering the man who taught me the difference between wealth and worth. They say success is the best revenge. But I've learned it was never about revenge. It's about proving that true value isn't in what you inherit. It's in what you create. And sometimes, the most valuable inheritance isn't money. It's the wisdom to see what others miss.